One. All right, we're recording. Okay, everybody, I'm very pleased to bring you Ms. Great Britain ahead of her big fight with Katie Taylor. It's Tasha Jonas. How you doing?
I'm good. I've had a tough week, but it's all in the bank now, and it'll be worth it in the end.
So one question that as soon as the fight was announced, one question that immediately came to mind for me in reference to the Taylor fight is, you guys fought before at least 2 times by my count, correct, as amateurs. How do you think, how did you evaluate her as an opponent then? What were her strengths then as an amateur?
I think they're the same as they are now. Her speed has always been, up there, and I think a general like boxing IQ is how smart she is, and yeah.
That being said, speed was a big thing for her in the amateurs. Do you think that now that you're both professionals, do you see any changes in her, or does she look like the same fighter that she was in the amateurs?
No, I think there's things that she's got better at, and she does better now than she did before. But I also think there's things that she doesn't.
All right. What weaknesses do you see in her that you can exploit right now as a professional? Because, now it's not 3 rounds, now it's 10 rounds. Does that work in your favor?
I think so. Especially when we boxed in 2012 Olympics, we only had 4 rounds. It was point scoring. So, like, when you go a couple of points behind, it's hard to catch up within them 4 rounds, and you kind of lose yourself. You have to either go for it or just be happy that you're just getting beat by them points. And I did decide in the Olympics to go for it, and obviously it left me open to get hit myself. So yeah, so that I think the longer rounds, if you lose a round, you just lost the round. You've got another 9 to catch up. I think obviously my power's always been a big plus of my boxing. So if you knock someone down in amateur at that time, it was just a point. Now you win it 10-8, so there's a whole heap of difference.
Now, it struck me as curious that they came to you because I feel like you're risky for her. You hit hard. Like, that's always like, I've noticed that when you first went pro, to like, the girl hits hard. That's a standout quality. Yeah, she can box and all of that, but she hits hard. She actually has power. What do you think made them come to you with this opportunity?
I'm not so sure. I don't know. I'm not sure. I do believe. I think for the Terry Harper fight, they thought that they was kind of feeding me to the lions, and it just backfired big time. And I think that because of the pressures here, because I didn't get the rematch, and maybe that they're trying to do the same thing, but again, I will prove them wrong. So
yeah, do you feel like, because it kind of feels like maybe they're underestimating you again? That's kind of what it feels like. Oh, let's get Tasha. Everybody's high on Tasha right now. She fought really well. She gave a hell of a fight, and they figure, okay, well, let's do the thing with Katie, because there's always been I've always felt that this is a big fight for you guys where you live because of the Olympic history. So there's money in it. Like, there's interest. People want to see you fight again. But it's strange that they decided to do it on this timing, that like I didn't know that they were going to give you the fight. You know what I mean? I kind of suspected.
Me neither.
So you really didn't think you were going to get it?
No. To be honest, it was. I remember someone had tagged me in something on Twitter about some Irish press had said, "Oh, we've heard a rumor that Tasha Jonas is going to be Katie's next opponent," and they tagged me in it saying, "Is this true?" And genuinely, I thought, "Well, that's news to me because I hadn't genuinely heard it." And I know people think I was lying, but I genuinely hadn't. And then about 2 weeks after that, maybe 10 days after that, my management company, I got a call from Tom, and he said, like, "Would you take the Taylor fight?" And I was like, "Of course I would." So then he was like, "Oh, let me phone you back." And then, like, he phoned me back the next day and went, "We can get you the Taylor fight if you want it." I was like, "You're damn right." So that's how it went. And then, so literally, it was social media that told me. And then, Obviously we had to work out the finer details and all that and agree on other stuff, but that's that's how it came about. And I've never turned down a challenge, and I never would, not for a big opportunity like that anyway.
Yeah, it's weird because the more and more I talk to fighters, the more of it seems like the fighters are the last to know, kind of. Because somebody else said that. I think it was Heather Hardy or somebody. They said like, I didn't know about that. I found out through y'all. That was somebody that said that. I'm like, that's so weird because this was a rumor. Like for a while, there was a lot of people telling me like, yo, watch, she's gonna fight Tasha Jonas. I'm like, yo, that'd be a dope ass fight, but I don't know if that's next because she post fight
Yeah.
Terry. That having happened the way that it did, do you feel like it worked out for the best? The Harper rematch not happening for this. Do you feel like it was a blessing in disguise? The Harper rematch not happening.
I think so now, yeah, because I was never getting an instant rematch with Harper anyway. It was always going to be 3 fights or more down the line. The original offer that I was given was a 3 fight deal, and Harper would have been the third fight. So you know, I haven't lost anything. It was never, it was always going to be a year down the line. Anything. It's just a bigger opportunity on a bigger stage against, a more formidable opponent, and I've got nothing to lose.
Mm-hmm. Now, psychologically, how do you handle? Because do you feel pressure? Because this is a huge fight. Like it's a huge fight. It's undisputed. You beat her. You're the undisputed lightweight champion. Does that stay with you, or is it just no? She's just another opponent.
I mean, we've seen it before, with Limachenko and Lopez, McCaskill and Brockhouse. Underdogs can win, and I genuinely, don't get me wrong, I'm going in there. I've trained my ass off. I'm going to be putting my best foot forward. But there's no pressure on me because you have to live up to your reputation. People, I'm already the underdog. People are saying, "Oh, she's going to win easy." Okay, well, let's see. And you've got to prove that. Let's see.
Hmm. Do you feel now the way you felt before the Harper fight, or is this fight different for you? Does this feel different than that fight, did that world title opportunity?
I feel different mentally and physically. I think I've got an extra 5 pounds, and also like just mentally, like I think the Harper fight kind of confirmed to myself that I deserve to be at that level, and now I've got another shot to be there, and I've got a chance to prove everybody wrong and to prove some people right, and yeah, I've got there's no pressure on me. I just got to go and do it. This is like already written. I've just got to go and do what I need to do to pick up the belt.
So let's say, hypothetical scenario, Tasha Jonas wins this fight, becomes the undisputed lightweight champion. Would there be a second fight after that? Is there like an immediate rematch clause that Taylor can exercise if things don't go her way?
Yeah, there's my dreamer always. I've got a rematch clause except when the other person genuinely wins. So yeah, there is a rematch clause, and yeah, we would box again, but you know we'll see. We'll
You
see.
never know. You never know.
Yeah.
I have to say that in 38 years of life, I've never used the term rematch clause that much until recent years with matrimony. You got a rematch clause for everything, dog. Like you lose a thumb wrestling match, there's rematch clause. You got to have a rematch clause after that. Beyond that, what would it mean to you, just you specifically, to become the lightweight undisputed champion?
I think there's so many things that like my amateur career was great. Don't get me wrong, but I wasn't fully satisfied with it. I can't even put my finger on what it was, but probably there was things I thought I should have achieved that I didn't, and that was the kind of carrot that got me into professional because I wanted to put the record straight and just have peace of my mind, not anybody else's. And I think doing that on the first will just draw a line in the sand and be like, okay, I am satisfied, and that, yeah,
Yeah,
it's just peace of mind
I've
for
heard
me, really.
I've heard that like some fighters that are in the amateurs, they have a style, and I think that this applies to you, but I'll see if you agree. That they have a style that's better suited for the professional ranks. Would you say that that applies to you? That because of your punching power, your style is better suited for the pro ranks than the amateur ones?
I would say so. I think as well that like one of the things is I get better. I know in the Harper on the Harper camp, the runner, people were like, "Oh, she can't do 10 rounds," but as I shown, I get better. So yeah, at the 10 rounds shoots me down to the ground because I'll progressively get better and better each round. So, and I know I can't keep referring back to the Harper because I know I have to be Harper and more, but that's what this camp's for. And this is what, like, the improvements that I've shown myself, my sparring partners, physiologically, and that's it, anatomically, nutritionalist with Joe. This, like, I know it's my time. That's all I can say.
And I go back to the Harper fight, right? Because I was on Twitter a lot in the build-up, and I saw what people were saying, and I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, why do y'all think this is gonna be easy? You know what I mean? How did it feel to put on a performance like that? Like that's fight of the year stuff, fight of the year, right? How good did it feel to go out there and do that and have everybody fawning over you afterwards? Like, oh, it was amazing, because not everybody gets to experience that.
Yeah, I knew I always had that performance in me, but it was putting it out there for people to see. And I did understand why people had them like misconceptions, but I was saying all along, like beaming with confidence, okay, this is what you think, we'll see. And Joe said the same, and everybody laughed, and everybody was like, she can't do it, she's too old, she's can't do 10 rounds, she can't, struggles at the weight, all that stuff. And I was like, okay, we'll see. And they did. You didn't have to believe me. I don't need people to believe me. I don't need people to think, oh, yeah, she's just saying that to talk up a fight, or she's having a big payday or whatever. If that's what you believe, that's what you believe. I'm not here to change your mind for that. But what I will say is that we'll see. And
Mm.
that's the same with this fight. We'll see. Have your opinions. You're entitled to them, but we'll see.
Those are fighting words. We'll see. Those are fighting words. That's what they are. Those fighting words. We'll see. One thing I like to ask everybody now is, what's your favorite thing about being a boxer, and what's your least favorite thing about being a boxer?
Oh, that's a good question. My favorite thing is that I'm a competitive person by nature, just not in, if it wasn't boxing, it'd be a different sport. But I love the fact that I get to challenge and test myself every single day. And every time I go into the gym, I get to have a new experience and learn because, it's all about development and not necessarily always physical as well. Even in the bad times that I learned about myself, like mentally. So yeah, I think just that.
Hmm.
Um, the worst, I think, being that competitive, the worst bit is losing. Not that you want to do that too often, but it's tough. Um, yeah, and sometimes, especially the Oganov thing, was hard to come back from because it was such a low. It never happened before and whatever. So the losing isn't always great.
Hmm.
But like I say, I took a positive off it and made myself better. So
I mean, that was I saw once again the week of the Harper fight. I saw a lot of people bring that up, and I'm like, I don't know. I guess a lot of boxing fans don't really realize that some of the best fighters that ever fought, they suffered losses in their very early in their careers. Henry Armstrong, he suffered like 3 losses in his first 10 fights, but he went on to be one of the greatest boxers that ever boxed. Juan Manuel Marquez, he lost his pro debut. Guy knocked out Manny, so it's like I felt like they were reading too much into that. Like I don't want to say Vivian landed a lucky punch, but I've watched
no.
Vivian's career a lot, and I'm like, yeah, it was her night. It was her
Yeah,
night.
yeah. I don't take nothing away from it. I knew that what danger shot she had, and she hit me. She hit me with it. That was bad on my part because I knew that was the only shot she had in the locker, and I got caught with it. So that was just that was just a bit of my immaturity and me kind of overlooking it in a sense. But obviously that's, that taught me a lesson, and that lesson won't happen again.
Now, beyond the Taylor stuff, beyond the Harper stuff, is there a possibility that you could campaign as high as 140, or is it super featherweight and lightweight specifically?
I think I said anything from 130 to 140 is doable. I mean, it's a lot of weight difference, but you know, I am naturally a little bit heavier than, obviously, I would presume, some featherweights, so super featherweights. So yeah, for me, anything from 130 to 140 is comfortable.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I mean, and I've said before, like, I probably, one of the reasons I got this opportunity was because, but when I received the offer, McCaskill was having a rematch with Brickhouse. Serrano was fighting. Clarissa was fighting, but Katie's already said that 147 is too heavy. She won't do that. And Chantal Cameron was injured, and they're the only ones that were really calling it out before. So when I win these on the first, they're the only people I won't call in my name, because nobody else before that was. So yeah, just putting that out there.
That's dope. That's dope. I mean, like I know that a lot of you guys are friends in some capacity, but Jonas versus Cameron, oh my god. Jonas versus oh my god, McCaskill versus that's like, yo, that's dope, dog. And that could be at lightweight, that could be at 47. It's a lot of possibilities, but it's a fantastic fight. Beyond that, okay, so we got the weight out of the way. I wanted to ask, did anybody influence you on your way up? Were you influenced by any fighters? Like, was there anybody that you looked up to as an aspiring boxer that you derived a lot of inspiration from?
Um, Obviously there's the Robinson, Sugar Ray Robinson is someone, like, my coach, my amateur coach, loved him, loved his feet, and he was very big on footwork, and he'd always used to go and tell you to watch a fight. But then, you know, watching boxing was, even when I didn't box, was mine and my dad's kind of thing. And I grew up in the, like, the early Tyson and Lewis and Prince Nassim and Ben Eubank Collins, them kind of days. They were like our era. That was when British boxing was massive, because it was like kind of in-house kind of thing. So, them, but then also the likes of, like, Jane Couch, Lucy Riker, and Wolf. They was and Layla Ali. They was the only female boxers I really knew. Like, I didn't know any others. I thought, like, you know that was it. I couldn't even tell you any other names apart from them. So it was.
Yeah, I mean, the revolution is fairly recent. Like, the only ones I knew was Christy Martin, because I believe she
Christy
was
Martin,
fighting.
sorry, as well. Yeah. Anyway.
That was the only one that I knew, and I actually saw God, what's that movie that Lucia Riker was in? Million Dollar Baby. I didn't even realize she's a real fighter until I looked up. I'm like, oh, she's a real fighter, and the whole thing. She's got an undefeated record, strongest woman. That they were billing her as the strongest puncher in women's boxing at that time. So it was like, I wondered, who did someone like you, who was attempting to become something that it wasn't even well known yet, the sport of women's boxing, because it wasn't then what it is now. Who was someone that you might have been drawing inspiration from on your way up?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Jane Couch used to have her own like YouTube kind of channel. So she used to turn up at all the amateur events and the local boxing stuff and interview boxers. And we used to have good chats then. And I was only on GB at that stage, and it was in the early GB days. And she used to give me advice. And then I remember going to a European Championships and meeting Lucy Riker. And she was like, "Oh, it was in Holland, which is where she was from."
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, "You're a very good boxer. I like your style." And I was like, and it was like round the Million Dollar Baby was out, and I'd seen it, and I was like, "Oh, I can't believe she said I was a good boxer." And I was made up with myself, and I ended up winning. I think, I don't know whether it was bronze or silver. But I was like, "Oh, she's like, give me a compliment." I was dead made up. And then in the Olympics, after beating Quinny to Underwood. Layla Ali tweeted me and said, "Oh, you box lovely," and I was like, oh, I was never made up with myself. I was like, "Nice one, thank you."
That's dope. That's dope. Beyond that, I don't think I asked you before. Aside from yourself, who do you view as the top 5 most skilled women in the sport? Aside from yourself.
Aside from myself, I think it goes without saying, Clarissa, um, Taylor, Savannah, Serrano, um, what else do I like? And to be fair, I'd still say Brachaus me as well.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's like I don't want to diminish the victory by saying that I feel that by the time that she came to America, because I watched her, in her younger years, and people get older. It happens. So I would hate to. I don't want to diminish the victory by saying, well, time caught up to her. She got older, but she was actually, yeah, she that Sophie Ann Matisse fight. I was like, that's the fight that made me a fan of her. They're like, yo, B, she's a savage. Like the Michaela Lauren fights, like both of them, she knocked the spark out. I was like, yo, she's a savage. I don't know who this woman is, but she's a savage.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with like the Lomachenko. One defeat, and like he was out of the top 10, and like he's still Lomachenko at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that people are being very cheap with Loma because it's like he didn't throw, and I feel that that's what costed him the fight because he didn't throw. He came out there the first half of the fight and he just didn't throw. And if you're not throwing, you're losing rounds.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think his career is over behind that. Like he's still a very good boxer. I don't want to make excuses for him at all. He was coming off an injury, and I do think that that's important. And he was coming off an injury, a surgery, a year layoff, things. Well, not a surgery, but an injury of some kind, a shoulder injury. So it's like don't pee all over the guy just because he lost the fight. That's it's cheap. It's cheap.
I know boxing fans can be fickle sometimes, and like one lesson like, "Oh, we told you they wasn't great." No, and to be fair, a lot of not the likes of Brockhouse, but you know, even myself, Harper, I've only had 9 fights, 10 fights, 11 fights. I don't even know, but we're still learning. That's not a lot of fights, and we've got to, we need time to mature and develop into a proper professional because we are still only learning.
Yeah, what advice would you give the next cycle of Olympic boxers that decide to go pro and have to transition? What's something that you had to learn from going, from amateur to pro?
You'd think that it'd be something physical or something to do with training, but the first thing they'd say is that this is a business. So don't think like it's, I was very like shielded and protected as an amateur. Everything's provided for you and done for you. I knew what time I was getting up to train. I knew, when I was weighing in. I knew when I was, what competitions I was aiming for. I knew, I had me nutritionalist there, me doctor there, me sports analysis there, me sports psychologist there, and it was all pretty much at me beck and call. And I had, the best coaches in the country. I had pick them out at any given time, but professionals not like that. And
Mm.
you have to seek your team out yourself, and then you also have to, get with people that you trust because it is a business and people are out here to make money off the back of you. And, they're not always going to do what's best for you.
That being said, which brings us to our next subject, the pay scale. So there's just
My
so many
favorite.
different. I talk to everybody about this because I have a good idea of what needs to happen. At least I believe I do. But there are so many varying views. I don't feel that you guys are the female fighters. I see the UK is having a renaissance. They have you. They have all these other girls. They're having a renaissance over there. Over here, we have a two-time undisputed champion that does not get, I guess, the kind of money that she wants. And I feel like it's a marketing issue more than anything. That it's not equal pay because no men are paid equally. You know, like Chocolatito's one of the greatest guys, one of the greatest super flyweights. But there's welterweights that don't have a career like him. They get paid more than him. So what's not happening for these ladies that needs to happen? I believe it's marketing, but that's just from where I'm sitting. I'm just a consumer. I'm just a customer. What do you think it is?
I think it's the same thing. You know, if you're getting in there and doing what you need to do to be successful, then promotion shouldn't be your work because you're doing the work by winning. You know, the promoter's job is to promote, and they will buy into anything that you're selling because that's your job to make sure they do that. And you as a network and as you know, not yourself, but you know, networks, they will. It can work because it happens with men all the time. And I get what you're saying about, you know, everyone always wants to see the heavyweight and you know, welter and you know, that's all come into after the heavyweight went a bit weak. I don't want to say weak, but you know what I mean. The heavyweights weren't what it was, and then people moved and concentrate on different weights. But it showed that it can be different weights. It doesn't always have to be the heavyweights. It doesn't, you know. So if you know, look at a new way. If people will buy what you're selling, and you've just got to sell it to them as a product and as a package. And I don't think that's being done fairly. And I don't think we're being represented fairly.
Mm, mm. Do you think, because when I talked to Jessica McCaskill a couple interviews ago, she felt that the responsibility of a fighter's notoriety is not just placed at the feet of their manager and their promoter, but themselves to some degree, that you have to also sell yourself. Do you agree with that? That as a fighter, you know, you got to do your part too. You got to sell yourself too. Or do you feel that, no, that's what these managers are for? That's why they get paid. That's their job. How do you feel about it?
A little bit of both. You have got to you. We are a entertainment sport, so people, like I'm saying, want to watch you for a reason. Whether that's the way you box, you know, it could be the way you look, as we've seen. It could be that you know you talk a certain way and people want to see you lose. Whatever that is, you know, we need people to tune in, and however you do that, do that. You know, I don't think I do any of them things, but you know, results should speak for themselves. And like I say, if you do what you're doing and win and box well, people want boxing to be entertained. So whatever that package is that you're offering, put it there.
Yeah. Because I mean, with the men, you know, like I remember Ricardo Mayorga. Ricardo Mayorga would never be able to get away with the stuff he used to say. You know, he was very brash. Unless you spoke Spanish, you wouldn't know what he was saying. He's a very brash guy, but it sold the fight, and he was good. I don't know that he would have been someone that's classified as great, but the way he sold the fight, he had a mouthpiece. He'll say some
Yeah.
stuff, and you'll want him to lose.
There's the same with Nas, the same with Tony Bellews talked himself into fights. Chisora talks his way into fights, flipping tables, throwing glasses. You know, that's like we haven't had a woman do that yet that I can think of. But you know, that's how they do it. So, you know, yeah.
All right, now I have this is a funny question. If it wasn't you fighting Katie, if it wasn't you, and the Amanda Serrano fight would have materialized, how do you feel with your boxing brain that fight would have went?
It's hard. That's a hard one because I think that is genuinely a 50-50 fight. I think um, the way Katie approaches southpaws is different than the way she approaches orthodox people. You know, and I think also Serrano's dangerous. So Katie's a better boxer in a sense, but you know, Serrano's tough and will keep coming. And as we've seen with Pursuit, that can sometimes be a downfall. So I'm going to be one of them 50-50 sit on the fence people. I don't know. It genuinely, but I think that was the fight. Like globally, I think people wanted to see. Even myself, I've said that before. It just happened for the British public that our fight has happened, and I think we've always been on a bit of a collision course. But you know, I think it's still a great fight regardless. And you know, if if not her, if she doesn't want to fight Katie or Katie, I know they couldn't sort out the deal. I would definitely entertain Serrano.
Mm. That's what I wanted to ask you. If you become the Thanos of the lightweight division, you get all the rings, you get all the belts, all everything. Is that a possibility? A Serrano fight?
Yeah, I think there's lots of once you've got the belt, like I said, all people are going to start calling you out because you've got something. I think one of the reasons that I wasn't called out is because I was quite a big threat for not so much gain. They're not going to win a title off me or whatever, but I'm, there's a bigger threat. But you know, I said she was one of the people I named: Serrano, Shields, Cameron. You know, all of them.
Yeah, because you're a, at least I'll say in the build up, at least the perception of you that I had, high risk, low reward. Very high
Hmm.
risk. If they put you in there with somebody, there's a good chance you're going to beat them. So I feel like after the Harper fight, regardless of the outcome, which is the beauty of boxing, if you have a great performance, your value can still go up. Even if the outcome, isn't what you wanted or isn't right, your value can still go up. And now I think that just beyond the Taylor fight, there's a lot of possibilities for you. A lot of, like, yeah, you could beat Taylor and maybe there's a rematch, but even beyond that, there are other fights for you. And I think that's what this era of the sport has for the ladies that it didn't have before. You only had a handful of girls: Holly Holm, Lucia Riker, Christy Martin, Layla Ali, Ann Wolfe. I think Mia St. John, and that led to the Breakers era. But there was really only about 5, 6 girls. Now there's this whole ocean of girls that you could fight. Is that
Yeah.
at all daunting?
No, I think and you know what? This is why I don't understand why like it isn't a promoter's dream because everybody wants to fight the best. Nobody wants to be a one belt champion. No female that I know wants to be a one belt champion. They want to have all the belts. So that should be a promoter's dream to work with because there isn't the depth that there is in the men's at this minute. Them fights are easier to make. And right at this very time, right now, are cheaper to make.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't you? Why
Mm-hmm.
why wouldn't you do that? It doesn't. It makes business sense to do that, which is why I don't get like why some of these fights aren't being made. Okay, they want more money, but they deserve it, and it will bring bigger and better things and bigger and better occasions.
I agree because I think that at least here in America, I have no idea what the climate is like in the United Kingdom. I don't know, but I know that here in America, there is sexism to some degree. Because if I say that, like, yo, these two girls is gonna fight, cat's not really hearing that until I show you. Now, once I show you, I got you. I got to show it to you first. Once you see what I'm talking about, it's like, I don't know. Different people are from different places. Where I'm from, my two sisters and my mother, they scrappers. Like, that's normal. But different people from different places, I don't know. And I do believe that some of it is sexism. Some of it is misogyny. Because it's like, why is that such a tough sell? You didn't see girls fighting in high school? Forget about a boxing ring. You never seen girls thumping in high school in the yard? You don't look down the block, it's girls fighting down the block. That's normal, bro. But I guess it's a regional thing.
No,
In Europe and in the United Kingdom, you guys seem to be a little bit more open minded.
and one of the reasons for that, I think, is the like you say we're visible. So now, Katie Taylor has been on cards, been on big Joshua undercards, headlined her own show. Terry Harper has, McCaskill has, Brockhouse has, I have, and Chantel has, Sav has. So it is all about that visibility. But now the boxing like audience accept that now. So we've gone past now the oh my god, it's women's boxing is not as good as men. We're past that now. We are. We are. And that's only happened since the start of this big pro turnaround. So that's only happened within the last, I'd say, 4 years.
Yes.
And so we've pushed that way now. So let's keep pushing on. If sports stands still, it's we're not when you're not doing it right. You have got to keep progressing. You have got to keep pushing forward. And now we've knocked down that barrier, and we're moving on to the next one, which probably is equal pay and all the other stuff and moving it around and whatever.
Well, I'll tell you this much, right? Don't laugh. Clairvoyant, and it's coming. Equal pay is coming. All of that is coming, but the growth is going to be. I don't believe it's going to take long. This kind of the trend that I'm seeing looks like it's exponential growth. It'll probably happen within the next 2 years. So you want to stick around and you want to win that fight because the growth is going to be it's how could I put it? It's like it can be going this way for a while and then out of nowhere it just goes up because of the value of one match can do that.
Do you know what? Do you know what's weird as well? Is that I don't know a woman who's asking for equal pay. Everyone's just asking for fair pay, and that's a difference. No one's. I don't want to get. Well, I don't feel like I'm in the position to be paid the same as Joshua, but I do think I should be in a position to ask for a fairness in the pay. So, and I think women will stand with me and agree with that. Like, no one's asking for equal because we're not quite there yet. But what we're asking for is fair, and surely that has to be a thing.
It'll come. It'll come. Trust me. Hey, I predicted this fight was going to get made. Not for nothing. I didn't think it was going to happen this fast, but I've been saying for a while, like, yo, Jonas versus Taylor is a good fight, man, and this people going to like that fight because of the Olympics. It's like people going to like that fight, and stylistically, neither one of you is subtle. You're both killers. You like the punch. She likes the punch. She likes to lay off a little bit more. I noticed she'll be in and out a little bit more. You're a big puncher. You hit hard. Every fight, I've seen all your fights. You hit hard. Very aggressive person. That being said, and I think we can leave it on this. What message do you have for Katie, if any?
Just put your best foot forward. You bring the best version of you. I'll bring the best version of me, and that'll make for a cracking fight. And maybe we could be that fight that changes everything.
Thank you, Tasha. Always a pleasure. Best wishes, regardless of what happens. I'm gonna be watching. All right.
You tune in. Thank you.
Bye-bye.